So when I think about the typical family that's looking for that, it's the people who index more deeply on the learning experience itself, that care about self-directed learning, about creating a non-competitive environment, although they do ask each kid to understand what they're sort of like where they need to push and pull for their own learning.
I'm Agnes Stowicki, Managing Editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private and independent schools to bring you insights into school programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administration. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
The first time that I stepped into Humberside Montessori, I joked with Mike here that I was writing the check even before the tour was done. It was just a visceral feeling that just felt right for, at the time we were deciding for our age 6-year-old, whether or not they would continue on with Montessori. They'd done CAS in sort of our local neighborhood, and whether or not they would continue on. And it just embodied the way that I wish I had been able to learn as a kid, through self-directed learning. And a huge part of it too was the fact that it's one of the only accredited Montessori international accreditation, close enough, in Toronto. And what that meant was, should we ever want to travel or live somewhere else, we knew that the kids could be transferred into another school. So as an example, we almost moved to Chicago once, and there was a Chicago accredited school. They were going to be able to seamlessly move over there. So that was a huge part. So just the way it felt when I went in, the way that I wanted to learn Montessori method, which I'd learned as a kid, and the fact that it's accredited. How about you?
Yeah, for me, all of the things you said, I totally agree. The other big part was the location. Bloor West Village, the access to that community plays a big part in the curriculum of going out and being a part of that community every week. As well, the proximity to High Park and the ability to integrate that experience of being out in nature was also a big factor for us. Both of our two sons responded very well to the Montessori environment, and specifically to the environment at Humberside. They have built friendships that have lasted for our older son beyond Humberside, taken those to high school. And I think a big part of that is because their 3-year consistent time in the lower and upper elementary classes really helps them build that confidence and comfort, but also strong connections to their classmates.
Yeah, just to sort of put it in perspective, our younger son will specifically be at the Humberside Montessori for 10 years, and our older son was there for 7 years. In total, our older son is now in high school in grade 11. And truthfully, when I talk to people about Humberside and the Montessori method, so much of it is reflected in what we're seeing in sort of their skills and their ability to learn once they get into in our case, a very large public, Catholic, but big high school. We can see the discipline, the ability to be organized, the ability to direct their own learning, their commitment to, not only excellence, but their commitment that they make to themselves. We also saw a lot of social learning happening. So, of course, we all get to make mistakes. And what I love about Humberside is just the ability of the community to understand that these are kids going through all different types of things, and that we have to have the grace to allow them to learn. So we saw a lot. So both kids have responded very well to being in the school. Both of our kids really benefited from the fact that there isn't intense or a lot of homework until you enter into grade 7. It allowed them to balance the social. It allowed them to figure out how to be part of a team sport, which for them was very important. They both play quite competitive hockey, and they also both are referees in hockey, which is great to learn both sides of the game. So Humberside allowed our kids to be able to really explore things outside, and including just being a kid and just doing nothing, staring at the wall sometimes, right? So for both of them, I know they appreciate that the intensity really didn't ratchet up until grade 7 and 8. But when it did in the adolescent program, they felt like they were amongst peers. They were experiencing the exact same thing. The way the adolescent program, so that's grade 7, 8, is organized with their morning meetings where they talk about what they're going to do. It's basically, and at the end they do the retrospective on how did the day go, what were the things that were learned. For me, it really facilitates the way that a well-functioning office or office place with a community of people working in it works. So for us, I think they just appreciated that they got to be a kid quite in the beginning, and then when it was time to really sort of turn the jets on, as it were. They were in a supportive community, and they were taught good practical ways to stay organized and to learn how to learn.
And it's translated really well for our older son, joining a high school community that's much bigger than Humberside. He came to that with confidence, good work ethic, and I think was very well prepared to be successful at the next level. So his appreciation for that foundation he built at Humberside in the adolescent program, as you just said, that 7 and 8 ramp up to get him prepared for his secondary career was really, really well understood by our son as he transitioned, and I think a big part of what he appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they also loved they love running around High Park, frankly, right? They love the ability to just, I know there's no gym in its sense, there's physical expression. And with that, they can run up and down the hills of High Park and really, embed themselves and learn about sort of nature and just be silly and have fun. So that's what they love most. What I appreciate most about Humberside is the teachers. We've been able to develop deep relationships with the teachers, but also on the flip side, we have we've stood back from it. Like we've allowed our children and their teacher to find their groove. I trust the teachers emphatically, and I'm never worried when the kids sort of come back with feedback from the teacher or the way that they feel. I always trust that teacher will be able to handle a long sustaining relationship with our children. When we go for the parent-teacher interviews, there is careful and thoughtful feedback about what is going on with our children and how we can best support them. We just feel incredibly fortunate. And so at our time there's been probably over 10 teachers between our two kids that have that we've met with, that again, we've formed these relationships, and that our kids have spent at least 2, if not 3 years with. So that for me is just top of mind. It's second to none.
The other great thing about Humberside is the teachers and the whole staff's adherence to Montessori principles and the way that they encourage the older students in those 3-level classes to mentor and nurture the younger kids. This is not unique to Humberside, but I think the way Humberside treats it and enhances the experience for those children through encouraging that mentorship and that style of learning is very, very impactful. So for me, not a lot of surprises. I think what we have experienced was very much in line with what we expected and what we hoped for when our boys both started at the school. I was very impressed, I will say, with the focus on extracurricular activities and things happening outside of the school, the effort to connect with other smaller schools around the city for things like athletics, and the inclusion of a lot of activities in the community getting out of the school environment and being present, being a part of the Toronto neighborhoods, and in some cases, the broader city.
Yeah, I think for me it was, I was a little bit worried about grades 7 and 8, right? They're in this sort of, what can feel or look like from the outside, a bit of a protective bubble as they go in, like they finish up into grade 6, so they finish upper elementary. In the adolescent program, which is grade 7 and 8, again, they have tests, they have regular homework, they have a lot more responsibilities, they are accountable for more. And I was surprised with how naturally and easily our kids were able to transition into that adolescent program with confidence and be ready for high school. So I wasn't sure what that would be like, but they do a fantastic job at Humberside.
As an accredited Montessori learning environment, Humberside both advertises their adherence to Montessori principles and delivers it. This practice of delivering a multi-layered Montessori education has really come to life, and we've seen it from the lowest levels in CASA all the way through to the adolescent program. That has been very reassuring and very consistent through every level and through every classroom that our boys have experienced.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I was thinking too, is just the consistency of the care throughout their experience is something that they know how to rely on. They can fold it into who they are as, emerging adults and bring it forward and pay it forward in the world. Oftentimes when I describe Humberside to parents that are thinking about it, I'm like, if you're looking for a fancy school, like in terms of the building, in terms of like, an amazing gym that has basketball hoops or a pool, or, that's not its huge value. So when I think about the typical family that's looking for that, it's the people who index more deeply on the learning experience itself, that care about self-directed learning, about creating a non-competitive environment, although they do ask each kid to understand what they're sort of like where they need to push and pull for their own learning, and that trajectory can look completely different for each kid. So I think the typical family is just someone who's interested in a slightly alternative way of learning, and mostly deeply interested in pursuing self-directed learning for their children.
I think both of our boys really loved the experience of running a business as part of being a member of the school. That business is a weekly cafe where they plan, bake, or make baked goods and then sell them to the rest of the school community. And that business includes all of the money management, the budgeting, and the saving for some type of big trip or class activity. So both of our boys really enjoyed that and saw the value of being a part of a team that contributes to something that is for the greater good of the community.
Yeah, and even like that's sort of like towards the tail end of your experience. But I remember when, what pops into my head with this question is, the first time that our older son, we went in for an observation, and so you sit quietly and you observe the kids, you don't interact with them, you're there as a visitor, so there's specific rules on how you observe. And this was in the casa, so in the junior room, and he wanted to show us that he knew all of the steps to clean a table. And so for the 20 plus minutes observation, he like laid out all of his materials and he scrubbed that table, and he just kept looking at us and winking, and like nothing was more pride, and that was nothing made him more proud. So that's sort of like, as a 6-year-old, he just loved it. And we can see that as they go through with their project work, with the little things that they're doing. It's a very intrinsic thing that it's a very intrinsic feeling that they're proud of the things that they produce. uh, yeah, but the scrubbing the table was amazing. In terms of the teachers or the administration, just second to none, right? I've had absolutely no issues if I have to call or pull a kid from school or need some information. Each phone call is answered with care and concern. I, the reports that come back on the kids and how they're doing are just incredibly thoughtful and personal. And yeah, I can't thank them enough.
We've had experiences pre, during, and post pandemic at Humberside, and each one of those phases, each one of those different experiences with the school and the administrators has been so positive. A very difficult time for all educators to manage remote learning and then staggered hybrid learning. They did an amazing job, and we're very, very thankful for the thought they put into that challenge and how they've brought the life and the in-person learning just back to the school ever since.
The three things that we would say would be our top reasons to recommend Humberside Montessori would be the community, the teachers, the education that you actually get from it, and the fact that it is an internationally accredited Montessori. I just think when you walk in.
Go with your gut. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yep. Yeah, for us also, frankly, proximity, right? For a while we lived in the neighborhood next to Humberside. Now we live within walking distance. And for us, for the kids to be able to go back and forth to school basically on their own, to be embedded in the community, that was a huge, huge part for us. And I think a community-based school is a wonderful thing.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.